Good night. How everyone doing tonight? How everyone doing tonight? My name is Irma J. I'm here to give you a spiritual divine word on today. And the topic gonna be Peter with little faith. Okay, now this is right after Jesus fed the 5,000 people. Jesus went out to the mountain to pray, but his disciples got on the ship. Now the wind started tossing with waves, and then Jesus went unto them walking on the water. Okay, the disciples saw him walking on the water, so they got trouble. They were scared. They thought it was a spirit, so they had fear. But Peter wanted to see for himself if he was real or not, because Jesus said, "It is I. Be not afraid." So Peter said, "If it's you, call me to come out." So Jesus told him to come out the ship. So Peter started walking on the water toward Jesus. Now, long as Peter kept his eye on Jesus walking on the water, but soon as he took his eye off of Jesus, he began to sink because he was troubled of the wind that was starting him, and he got afraid. So he cried out to Jesus to save him. So Jesus told him, "You had little faith." So after everything was done, then they worshiped Jesus, saying, "He is the true Son of God." Okay, so now we see that Peter had little faith. He had little faith. We also see that he was the only one had a little faith to get out the ship, to walk on the water, to meet Jesus. The other disciples played it safe and they stood on the ship. Okay, so the so the next thing Jesus told him to trust him to come on. So he was gone, but soon as he took his eye off of Jesus, because he was troubled by the storm, he began to sink. And that's the thing is, we have to keep our eye on Jesus. We see as long as he was keeping his eye on Jesus, he was walking on the water until he took his eye off of Jesus just for that moment. So we see long as Peter kept his eye on Jesus, he was walking on the water. Soon he let his eye off, he just started sinking. Now after everything was said and done, they all worshiped Jesus, saying he was a true God. The other disciples, they played it safe. They stood on the ship. They had no faith at all. So in life, we have to have faith. We have to keep our eye on Jesus. Life will fall apart or you may sink if you don't keep your eye on Jesus. Sometimes we all, like the disciples, sometimes we might play it safe, but it will keep yourself in a box. And when you don't have faith, you always be afraid and with fear. And you don't want to have fear, walking around with fear and walking around with no faith. I understand this life. It have all kind of trials and tribulation and crime, everything going on. But you can't walk around being afraid and have fear. You have to have faith. You have to have faith because you'll be too nervous just walking around being fear. Now he had a little faith, but the other disciples that had no faith at all. They wanted to play it safe. So Peter had a little faith and he also had courage to step out of the ship. And when you have faith and courage, you will never. If you don't have faith and courage, you will never step out of your comfort zone. You will always play it safe because you'll be too scared to try anything else. Now we have to not focus on our situation, but keep looking forward to Jesus, who will save us when we need help. Now I know sometimes we have hard times that sometimes we put so much into our everyday life, and it seems like things is not working out or coming together because we putting so much energy into our problem and circumstance and not really giving everything to God. Okay, so main focus is God. He's our problem and our battle is belongs to the Lord. Now I know it's hard and we're going through tough times, but let us all keep our eye on Jesus. As a believer, we want to look ahead to Jesus and not look back. And when you look back, then you begin to sink. Peter stepped out of the boat with little faith. The other disciples kept it on safe. They didn't want to try new things. They were scared and they was afraid. And then afterwards, then they worship Jesus, saying, "Oh, he the true Son of God." Now in life, you don't want to walk around with fear. You don't want to walk around with fear because you will sink. You got to have faith and you got to have courage because without that, you're gonna be living in a box. And sometimes you have to get out your comfort zone. You have to get out your comfort zone sometimes. But you have to keep your eye on Jesus to move forward. You can't live life without God. You can't live life without God. You have to you have to keep it moving and you can't walk around with fear. And I'm preaching to myself too. So we have to have faith. Yeah, a little faith is better than no faith at all. Because he did have the courage to step out of the ship when the rest of the disciples stood in the ship. So this lesson was that Peter kept his eye on Jesus long enough to walk a little bit on the water until he turned around because he was startled by the storm. So long as you keep your eye focused on